Hello everyone, this is Anaga Bhavsar, and in this video I would like to talk about a very important issue, that is domestic violence against women. Domestic violence is one of the most widespread yet least reported crimes. And it is important that we talk about it now because, well, according to a study in The Lancet, around 27.5 million women in India experience violence throughout their lifetimes. And the rates have gone even higher than any month in the last 10 years during this lockdown. So I believe it is important that we take some action, and this video is my contribution towards it. Today to join us, we have Ms. Sumita Roy, who is an activist as well as a homemaker. She has done her post-graduation in sociology from Delhi School of Economics. She also has a postgraduate diploma in child rights law and consumer law and practices from National Law School of Indian University, and another post-graduation in industrial relations and personal management. Hello, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So, ma'am, we were just talking about how cases of domestic violence have greatly risen during the pandemic. What do you think is the reason for that?
Anaga, if you see the pandemic as such, it brought in a lot of, fear in people, a lot of frustration, a lot of uncertainty, and people got locked in a small physical space where people were not used to living for so many hours. So usually would go out, you would meet people, you would socialize. All those things stopped during the pandemic. And one of the basic feature of any kind of violence is you like to exercise it over somebody who cannot speak up, who cannot who is actually weaker with you in relationship with you. So strong people actually don't exercise violence. It is weak people who do that. Weak people who like to take out their frustration on something. So in pandemic, where all those frustrations were inside you, fear was there, people lost their job, people did not know what was going to happen, people were worried about their health and all those things. So what do you do then? The easiest target is the woman in the house. So you take out your frustrations on them. So naturally, pandemic, yes, did see a lot of violence. And also because of the lockdown, people could not go out and report. If you see the scenario, everybody was only worried about COVID. So other things almost ceased to exist. Heart attacks ceased to exist, other things ceased to exist. So domestic violence almost as if it disappeared. It was all happy family, people were cooking samosas and other things and living, but that was not the scenario. So obviously, pandemic did see a rise in a lot of domestic violence.
Yes, and I believe this is just the tip of the iceberg because there are so many people who are unaware that they are the victims of domestic violence. Any kind of violence by anyone in a domestic circle, which includes husbands, in-laws, siblings, as well as parents, is counted as domestic violence. And it doesn't have to be physical. It could be mental, emotional, verbal, as well as economical.
Yes, Anaga, you're very right about it. Sometimes when people keep on passing sarcastic remarks about you or are emotionally blackmailing you, if you do this thing, I'll leave the house and go, and all those things. So these are abuses. You're putting that, just because that person is respecting you, you're putting that pressure on that person to listen to you. And very rightly you said about, economical abuse. That's because I have seen many households where after childbirth, many women don't want to go back to work. They want to take care of their child. They want to take care of their family, but they're forced to go out and work. And they are also expected to come back home and to take care of the baby, take care of the house, cook for their husband, cook for their entire joint family. So it is also nothing less than an exploitation. So, and people don't realize that you are actually being forced to do something which is against your wishes.
Exactly. And there are also people who know they are being abused but refrain from complaining. Do you think it's mostly because of fear, or are there any other reasons to it?
Well, fear, of course, is there. Fear is because when you have an abuser in front of you, obviously you fear. That fear is only making you keep quiet. But then in a domestic, as we are talking about a domestic situation, you have to understand that over here we are talking about relationships. They're not in vacuum. So the person who is your abuser also happens to be your husband, or maybe your father, or maybe your brother-in-law. So, or your father-in-law. It could be anybody, or it could even be your mother-in-law. So you are in a certain relationship with that person. So it's not easy. Then also we have the societal pressure. It's okay, you should compromise, these things happen. So all these things then make, actually you are socialized into thinking that probably, you know, this is a part of life and it's okay to take that abuse. So those things are also there. So apart from fear, obviously it's not easy to, you know, go and complain against a person with whom you are in a relationship. So in domestic situation, yes, apart from fear, these are there.
And we could also say it's because people are unaware of the laws that can protect them, such as the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act of 2005, under which I believe women can seek protection from their abuser, they can seek financial compensation, as well as maintenance. And there are two other laws too. One of them is the Dowry Prohibition Act, which is self-explanatory, and the Section 498A of the Indian Penal Code. Could you please elaborate on what laws that section contains?
Well, actually 498 came up mainly to take care of, in context of dowry deaths, basically to take care of the dowry deaths. So where a woman is exposed to cruelty either by a husband or the relative of a husband, she can take the help of 498A, wherein the husband or the relative of the husband can be imprisoned, which can be extended up to a term of 3 years. They are also liable to fine. And 498 basically takes care of any kind of a cruelty which leads to a woman even committing suicide, or some kind of a bodily injury or harm that is done to her, or the health. Health doesn't just talk of physical health, but even mental health. If such things are happening, she can obviously take help of 498A. And also very important in this thing is that this is basically like, you know, a woman cannot be harassed or, you know, coerced for unlawful demand, like unlawful demand of, you know, dowry or some other things. So she can seek protection of the law under this section.
Thank you for sharing that. Also, in order to complain, you can file either an online FIR or go to the police station to do so. You can also file a complaint in the National Commission for Women, and the helpline numbers for India are provided in the description box below. After the FIR, you will have to get done a medical report, and the case will begin within 3 days of the magistrate receiving the complaint. Ma'am, now that we are talking about this, why do you think one chooses to commit the act of domestic violence? Do you think it is mostly to exert control?
Well, as I told you, you know, you want to exert control over somebody who is weak and who is not in a position to protest against your behavior. So exert control is obviously there. Now, mostly you will find who actually does this thing. As I told you, this is always the weaker person. So if you are going out to your office, you are getting bashed up by your boss, you are facing some problem outside. So naturally, you can't take out your frustration on them. So where do you do that? You go home and you try to exert control over there. So obviously, a person who commits this act of domestic violence is a person who is very frustrated from inside, who has his own fear, who has his own you know, shortcomings. A person who is confident would never do it. It's a person who has his own shortcomings who would actually do this kind of you know, commit this kind of violence. So they want to exert their control over somebody. Then again, who is there? The woman, who is the best target for this kind of exertion of control. And sometimes, you know, though we are talking about domestic violence, and especially in context with women, sometimes even women who are in this kind of a position, like a mother-in-law who has probably been exploited by her mother-in-law when she was a bride, does this thing with her daughter-in-law when she comes in a position where she can exert control. So a woman could also be doing this thing.
Yeah. And like living in a patriarchic society, some men are taught that them exerting control, even by the means of violence, is perfectly all right. Social evils such as sati and dowry show acceptance of violence towards women, but due to which women tend to have a higher rate of being the victim. But definitely that does not mean that we should ignore the fact that there are men and boys who also experience domestic violence. And as you just said, there are women who also tend to be the abusers.
Yes, exactly.
And ma'am, what do you think one can do when they are experiencing abuse?
See, when you are experiencing an abuse, the most important thing is that you seek help. You seek help from people whom you have confidence, who are not going to let you down. And when you seek help, like you yourself were earlier also talking about the National Commission for Women. Now, these are certain bodies which are much better to approach and probably much easier to approach, apart from obviously the help that you would get from your own family or your own friends. So people should start talking about it, seeking help. Not telling anybody about it will only lead to a failure of the mental health of the person, a total mental breakdown of that person. So seek help is very important. So that is the first and important thing. And then obviously there are other steps, like you have to get away from the abuser, the person who is abusing you. You have to get away from that.
Yes, and it is a harsh reality which has harsh effects, such as the post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, which means severe anxiety, insomnia, agitation, emotional detachment, and various other issues in the abused. After such a traumatic experience, how does one rise back from it?
Human mind is such that it is not like, it's like you open a door and shut the door. It's not that you get in and get out of something. So getting out of a domestic violence, getting out of such kind of a trauma is not easy at all. Sometimes people cannot get over trauma for probably their entire lifetime. And sometimes it is, for people, it is a very, a long process. Over the years, they happen to do it. And at times it also happens that when you don't go through a proper process of really healing up properly, you jump from a frying pan to fire. So, sometimes a lot of people who would seem like your friend are trying to give you a shoulder to cry on, could later on become your abuser. So it is very important that people take one step at a time. People be surrounded by people whom they can really trust. And the first thing, of course, the foremost thing is to get away from the abuser. Because if you don't get away from the abuser, that fear would obviously be there. And also, sometimes people tend to go back to those relationships again and again. So the first and initial step is to get to a safety. Second is, stabilize that environment, because that person has been living in an environment which has been full of abuse. So you give that security and a stability to this person's, life when that person moves on. Then it can be followed by, giving an unconditional support. Because a lot of times, these abusers, you go through a cycle. So, at times you feel that probably I did not do the most that I could have done in that relationship. Probably I was guilty. So you go through all that part, and then, somebody who is giving you a support feels that, oh, what is this? Here I'm supporting, and this person is again and again trying to get back to that relationship from which this person has come out. So you have to give an unconditional support. Let this person herself realize it and get over it. Because if you try to impose certain things, probably the journey will not be right. So don't try to impose yourself. Give an unconditional support and let the person share one's experience, probably find a support group, talk about it. The more you talk about it, the more you realize how much of an abusive relationship that you were in. The more you realize that there are other people also who are in it. It's okay. It's okay. It's not that you have done a crime if you were in an abusive relationship and you have spoken about it. So it's okay. There are other people also who have suffered. And then also that, when people start thinking about it, people they realize that there were many other kind of abuses also that they were going through in that relationship, which they actually did not realize. So those things, coming to terms with those things are also equally important. And of course, the healing process, the stitching of the wounds, and finally, you put a certain standard. Because like I told you, sometimes people get out of an abusive relationship, get out of the abusive relationship and get into another one. So you set a standard. So, because it is not that it is the end of your life if you were abused earlier. So you put a standard. Next time somebody tries to, cross that line, you said enough. That's it. Which you could have probably done in your first relationship. But now that you have learned your lesson, you said this thing that this is enough. Don't cross this line. Don't mess with me. So that is also a very important part when you try to rise out of an abusive relationship or a domestic violence.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Also, ma'am, if I know someone who is experiencing abuse, would going to the police be the right thing to do?
Well, if it is physically, if it's a very violent kind of an abuse, obviously police is the one that you need to rush to. But I would say, as such, if you are a victim of domestic violence, the best is to approach the Women's Commission. So you have State Women's Commission, you have Women and Child departments and these kinds of departments, because today in this world, we have a lot of alternative dispute redressal mechanisms, which are less coercive in nature and have more of a human touch in them. So their people are more trained, because if you are going to a police station, it's not that it's that you shouldn't, but the fact is that they are dealing with vast number of cases. So maybe everybody in that police station may not be sensitized to that issue. You understand? So, but if you go to a proper commission like this, where they learn, they are more knowledgeable about these issues. They're more sensitive to these issues, because we do require people who are more sensitive to these issues. So I would advise that if you ever come across such a person, do help that person first to get to safety, and then I would think that you should always, if it is a violent kind of a scenario, obviously immediately file an FIR. That person may have to go through a medical checkup and all those things, and go through a due process and all those things. You have to be very strict, do that. But otherwise, if it's a more of a mental and a verbal kind of a torture, you should think in terms of approaching these kinds of quasi-judicial bodies, which are softer and more sensitive.
Thank you. I will certainly keep that in mind. Thank you for joining me on this. Your expert opinion was very much needed and appreciated.
It was my pleasure, Anika, and that I could share all these things was my pleasure.
Thank you. In today's world, where we are making such huge progress in science and technology, I believe it is only fair that we do so in every other aspect too. And therefore, I urge everyone to come out in support of eradicating domestic violence. And I'm extremely glad to be part of the 16 Days of Activism, which is an initiative taken by the UN Women. And if you want to donate or help out in other ways, please click on the link in the description box below, which directly takes you to the UN Women's website. And thank you so much for watching this video.